Ever stop and, like, look down? At the ground, I mean.
Yeah, sure. I mean, who hasn't?
Well, when you do you ever just pick up a pebble?
Yeah, sometimes when I'm, out hiking or whatever.
Yeah, me too. It's kind of, I don't know, calming.
Yeah, it's grounding, literally.
Uh-huh, exactly. But have you ever thought about, like, just how old that little rock is? What it's been through?
I mean, I know rocks are old, but I haven't really thought about it like that, no.
Well, get this. Today we are diving into The Pebble in My Pocket, this book by Meredith Hooper.
Okay, so like a kid's book about rocks.
Well, it is technically a children's book, but it actually offers this really interesting perspective on Earth's history. We've got some overviews, reviews, even a bit about Meredith Hooper herself, and let me tell you, she's pretty fascinating.
Okay, I'm intrigued. So what's the plan for this deep dive?
Well, we're going to unpack this whole idea of a pebble's journey through time, from its very beginnings to, well, ending up in someone's pocket. I mean, how cool is that?
That is pretty cool when you put it like that. Yeah, I'm in. Let's see where this pebble takes us.
All right, so picture this. We're going way back, like 480 million years ago.
Okay, a while ago.
A bit, yeah. And our pebble isn't even a pebble yet. It's molten rock, part of a massive volcanic eruption.
Wow, so like the Earth was a pretty different place back then, huh?
Totally. The book really emphasizes how volcanically active the Earth was back then. Just constant eruptions, lava flows reshaping the landscape. It must have been incredible and kind of terrifying to see.
Yeah, I can't even imagine. So how does our molten rock go from, volcano stuff to an actual pebble?
That's where the real magic happens, right? Erosion. It's this slow, persistent force, but over millions of years, it does some serious sculpting.
Okay, erosion. So like wind, water, ice, that kind of thing.
Exactly. It's mind-boggling to think about. This rock being worn down bit by bit over such immense periods. The book really makes you appreciate that deep time, you know?
Yeah, it's hard to wrap your head around that kind of timescale.
Yeah.
So where does the pebble go from there?
Well, imagine this. After it cools down, it might end up getting pushed up with the land as mountains are formed.
Oh, wow. So from a volcano to a mountaintop. That's quite the journey.
Right. And then from there, it could tumble down and get carried by rivers and eventually end up at the bottom of the ocean.
Wow, so it goes from fire to water. That's quite the contrast.
It really is. And think about all the changes happening over those millions of years. Continents are shifting, sea levels rising and falling. So what was once a mountain could become seabed and vice versa.
That's incredible. Our little pebble is seeing it all.
And get this, during the ice ages, it might even get trapped in a glacier, frozen solid and carried across vast distances.
Oh, wow. So it was hitching a ride on a giant ice river. What a visual.
Right. The book really paints this picture of the pebble as a silent witness to Earth's incredible history. It's present for the formation of mountains, the shifting of continents, the advance and retreat of glaciers.
It's like a tiny time traveler experiencing all these massive geological events.
Exactly. And then after all those adventures, after millions and millions of years, it eventually ends up on a beach somewhere. And that's where it's found by a girl. She picks it up, examines it, and pops it in her pocket.
So this epic journey through time ends up in someone's pocket. That's a pretty poetic ending.
It really is. It brings this whole story full circle, connecting that deep time to our own lives in this really intimate way. It makes you realize that we're all part of this much larger ongoing story of the Earth.
And that even a simple pebble has this incredible hidden history behind it.
Exactly. Now, what's really unique about how this story is told is that the pebble is actually the narrator.
Wait, so the pebble tells its own story?
Yeah. It's a really clever way to help us grasp these immense timescales and these complex geological processes. I mean, can you imagine trying to explain the formation of mountains or the movement of glaciers from a human perspective?
It would definitely be a lot less engaging, that's for sure.
Right. But by giving the pebble a voice, the book allows us to experience these events in a much more personal and relatable way.
So it's like the Earth itself becomes a character in the story, too.
Absolutely. It's the backdrop for all these incredible adventures. The volcanoes erupting, the oceans swirling, the glaciers grinding their way across the landscape. It's all there, unfolding around our little pebble protagonist.
And even though the pebble's journey is the main focus, the book also hints at the life that existed during those different periods, right? Like the dinosaurs.
Yeah, there's this really subtle but effective way that the book introduces the idea of evolution. It's not explicitly stated, but as the pebble moves through different geological eras, the changing environments suggest the kinds of life that would have been present.
So even though we don't see them directly, we know that dinosaurs and other creatures were part of this story too. It adds another layer of depth to the narrative.
Right. And then we have that little girl who finds the pebble. She represents the present day, this tiny sliver of time in the pebble's long existence.
It's like a reminder that this journey through time is still ongoing and that we're all part of it.
Exactly. So if we were to summarize the key ideas from this book, what would you say they are?
Well, first and foremost, I think it's the concept of deep time. It really makes you appreciate the sheer immensity of geological time, those vast stretches of time that are just beyond human comprehension, 480 million years. It makes our own little lives seem, well, pretty insignificant in comparison.
Yeah, it's definitely humbling. And then there's that whole idea of the power of natural forces.
Right, volcanoes, erosion, glaciers, these are the forces that have shaped and reshaped our planet over millions of years. They're not just abstract concepts, they're real, tangible forces that have left their mark on everything we see around us.
And the book doesn't just tell you about them, it shows you. Like you can almost feel the water carving away at the rock, the heat of the volcano, the weight of the glacier.
It's very visceral. And then, of course, there's the subtle introduction to evolution, how life on Earth has changed and adapted over these vast periods.
And perhaps most importantly, it makes you realize that even the most ordinary objects, like a simple pebble, can hold these incredible stories. It encourages you to look at the world with a sense of wonder and curiosity.
To look beyond the surface and think about the deep history behind everything.
Exactly. So for those listening, if you're intrigued by this whole idea of rocks and fossils and the stories they tell, there are some other great books out there that you might enjoy.
Oh, absolutely. The Secret Explorers and the Cave Crisis is a fun one for younger readers. Harley Hitch and the Fossil Mystery is another good option. And then there's Stones and Bones, fossils and the stories they tell, and The Fossil Hunter, how Mary Anning unearthed the truth about the dinosaurs, both of which delve a bit deeper into paleontology.
And even a book like The Tiger Who Sleeps Under My Chair uses a child's imagination to explore the world beneath our feet.
And if you want to learn more about soil, there's Under Your Feet, soil, sand, and other stuff.
Oh, and Meredith Hooper herself actually wrote another book called A Drop in My Drink. It takes a similar approach, but this time it follows the journey of a drop of water. Really fascinating stuff.
All these books, much like The Pebble in My Pocket, do a great job of blending storytelling with science. They make learning fun and engaging no matter your age.
Speaking of Meredith Hooper, let's talk a little bit about the author herself. She's an Australian historian and writer born in Adelaide.
And she's got this really impressive academic background, degrees from the University of Adelaide and Oxford. So she's not just making things up, she really knows her stuff.
And she's written over 70 books, not just for kids, but for adults too, covering a wide range of topics: history, science, technology, even exploration.
She seems particularly drawn to Antarctica. She's actually spent time there working with scientists, which gives her writing a real sense of authenticity. And she won an award for her book, The Ferocious Summer, which focuses on Antarctica.
It's pretty clear she has a knack for taking complex subjects and making them accessible.
And she's involved in all these science and history organizations, received an award for her work in Antarctica. She seems pretty passionate about sharing knowledge with others.
And here's a fun fact. Her son is Tom Hooper, the director of The King's Speech. And apparently it was Meredith who suggested he adapt the play into a film. Talk about a talented family.
Really shows how storytelling runs in the family, doesn't it?
It does. Besides The Pebble in My Pocket and A Drop in My Drink, she's also written Who Built the Pyramid and Ice Trap, Shackleton's Incredible Expedition, all really great books for kids.
It's that blend of her historian background and her ability to explain science in an engaging way that makes The Pebble in My Pocket such a great book. She takes something seemingly ordinary and turns it into a portal to deep time.
Absolutely. It all comes back to that central idea that even the smallest, most unassuming object can have this incredible story behind it. A story that tells us about the vastness of time, the power of nature, and our own place in the grand scheme of things.
It really makes you think, doesn't it?
Yeah. It does. So next time you're out and about and you see a pebble, take a moment to pick it up. Look at it. Really look at it. Think about where it might have come from, what it might have witnessed over its long, long existence. You might just be holding a piece of history in your hand.
A story that's hundreds of millions of years in the making.
Exactly. And who knows what other hidden stories are waiting to be discovered right under our feet.
It's a pretty amazing thought.
It is.